champion and UFC Hall of Famer Randy Couture. Randy, welcome to West Coast Authentic and making the trip over for a grand opening.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. I had a little trouble traveling last night, but you know, it all worked out.
Yeah, you missed the connection or something?
Yeah, I was late getting out of Colorado. I've been staying in Colorado this last week. For whatever reason, we were late getting to LA, and I missed my connection out of LA. There's only one flight out of LA to Cologne, so there was no way to get there till this morning, and had to kind of jockey some things around. But you know, better late than never.
Your first time to Kelowna?
First time here, yes.
And congratulations on your multi-year deal with Spike TV.
Thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about your new show, Fight Master?
Fight Master starts airing the 19th of June, and will be airing all summer on Spike TV on Wednesday nights. We start out with 32 guys, and they compete to figure out who's going to get $100,000 and a shot in the Bellator tournament. And I think the unique thing about this show is that the fighter's destiny is in their own hands. They make all the choices. They choose the camps. There's 4 coaches. They pick which coach they want to train with. They pick their opponents, which guys they want to compete against. And I think that's going to create a facet that everybody's going to be interested in.
So it sounds similar to The Voice.
Absolutely like The Voice.
And I understand you're doing another show with Spike TV called Gym Rescue. What is that about?
We're casting for Gym Rescue now. Obviously, I've been involved in the gym industry for 15 years through mixed martial arts and been in gym my whole life. So kind of like Bar Rescue, we'll kind of go into gyms that are struggling, trying to figure out the reasons why they're struggling and see if we can't help them figure it out and turn it around.
What are the common reasons that a gym will fail?
I mean, it can be anything from location or the way they're set up, staff issues, management issues. Maybe just don't have software and infrastructure to run a gym properly. There's a plethora of reasons why places can struggle. It's a competitive industry.
What do you think about super fights? I know the UFC fans want to see them. What's your thoughts?
Super fights,
like UFC super, like GSP.
Oh, you mean catch-weight fights or CrossFit? Yeah. Fights? I mean, I think they're interesting. Obviously, I think it's maybe not the same as having a title on the line for the belt, but I still think tactically and technically at the end of the day, there's some interesting fights that can be made out there. You know, Anderson Silva and John Jones is one everybody talks about. Everybody talks about George and Anderson Silva for a long time. You know, there's some talk about whether John Jones is going to move up and try and play around with some of the heavyweights, which would be interesting as well.
How do you think GSP would do against Anderson?
I actually like GSP in that fight.
I think
we've seen Anderson's Achilles heel. It's the guy that's going to wade through him and take him down and you know, smother and keep him on the bottom. And obviously, we know George is more than capable of doing that. He's taking down world-class wrestlers. Took down Diaz and really controlled Diaz on the ground. He has that style capability. So I like him in that fight. Anderson's always going to be dangerous. He's very, very good at what he does. Long, rangy, accurate striker. But George has dealt with those types of guys before.
Now, you grew up in Seattle?
I grew up in Seattle. Used to come to Vancouver all the time, do soccer exchanges. Yeah, when I was a kid.
You did wrestling in high school, or was that in the Army that you started wrestling?
Started wrestling in junior high, actually, 7th grade. Wrestled all through junior high and high school. Went into the service, wrestled 6 years in the Army. Was an alternate on the '88 Olympic team as a soldier. And that was kind of the first time the college coaches came to see me. They're like, who the hell is this kid? And ended up getting a bunch of scholarship offers out of the service, and ended up going to Oklahoma State and wrestling there for 4 years, which is obviously a very strong wrestling program traditionally. We were in the national finals all 4 years that I was there. We won it twice and we took second twice. And I was in the finals twice myself as an individual. So it was a great place to wrestle, and I think it was there that I realized I could compete at that highest level. I think I started to believe I could do it when I was in the service and was an alternate on the team, and then I think I learned how to win and believe I could win at Oklahoma State.
Any new movies coming up?
I've got one coming out called Rush. I think the title's going to change. It's a working title. I play with Dolph Lundgren and Vinnie Jones, and I play a very, very corrupt, nasty cop, which was fun. We're greenlit to start Expendables 3 right now in August, so I'm excited about that. There's all kinds of rumors flying around who they're going to add, who's going to be in this one, and all that. So I have no idea.
Have you seen the script for?
I haven't seen the script,
Oh, okay.
and that will kind of tell the tale once I get a script and get to read it. We'll know more.
Do you know what locale
Well, I'm sure we'll be back in Bulgaria. Big producers, Avi Lerner and New Image has New Boyana in Bulgaria and Sofia. So I've heard we're going to be there for at least half the film, and then I've heard somewhere in Asia for the other half.
Do you train actors in fight scenes in the movie?
I haven't. I think fortunately, in just about all the movies that I've done, the stunt coordinators, the guys that are in charge of those types of scenes, want my input. They ask me, okay, how do you feel about this technique or this tactic? How do you see this scene? This is kind of what we want to happen. But that's more for my own stuff. And I'm learning this industry and learning the ropes myself, so I don't feel like I'm in a position to be telling anybody how they should be doing anything, whether it's fighting or otherwise. So, you just kind of try to pay attention, keep to yourself, keep your mouth shut, and do your job.
So Jason tells me you're going to be joining us at Rusty Steakhouse tonight for the UFC 161 fight. Any predictions, Evans, Henderson?
The Evans-Henderson fight is a great fight. I think Evans is a little more active athlete in his style. He moves his feet a lot more. He's a smart fighter, so he knows better than to kind of stand still and bang with Dan. Dan's got a devastating right hand. I think Dan's probably, on paper, a little better wrestler. He's a two-time Olympian in Greco, which I think is a very applicable style to MMA. So if he can get his hands on Rashad, he can make it a long night for Rashad, but Rashad's going to be hard to get a beat on. So it's going to be interesting to see how that fight unfolds.
And Nelson Miocic?
I don't know that much about Miocic. Yeah. I think the big thing with Nelson is that everybody tries to go out. First, they judge the book by his cover, and everybody goes out and tries to knock him out. And the guys like, remember Tex Cobb? He just can take a beating and still standing there. I saw DeSantos hit him with things that would have knocked a lot of other guys on the ground, and he was still standing there swinging. He's got a devastating right hand. He's a great big guy with a big club of a right hand. So you can never count the guy out. I think this is potentially his last fight in the UFC on his contract, and I know him and Dana have been butting heads, surprised there. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know much about this European kid.
There's also a women's bout on tonight's card. What's your thoughts on women fighting in the UFC?
I've always been an advocate of women's fighting. I come from an Olympic sport where our women's counterpart in female freestyle wrestling is very, very important. And the Canadians have a very strong team here in women's freestyle. I think, especially in a sport that's affected so drastically by Title IX, having a female counterpart is an important part for wrestling, and I think it's not a bad thing for fighting either. The women are, they're dedicated, they're technical. Almost sometimes it seems like they have something else to prove. So when they do fight, they're a lot of times the fight of the night because they're so wide open. So I've always been a big fan of it. I like it.
What's the craziest thing a fan has ever asked you to sign?
Well, I've signed a couple boobs. I've signed some underwear. Female. Just thought I might clarify that. That's probably the craziest. I actually had a girl pull her breast out at a signing to get an autograph, which was a little shocking. I had a guy that had me sign his arm and went and got it tattooed, which was a little strange.
So he came back and showed you or told you later? Thank you so much for being here today. It's been a real pleasure.
Thanks. Great crowd today. What a cool shot.
Thank you very much.